Minister Mildred Oliphant, Minister Mr. Vilagazi, the Executive Director of Nedlac, our honored guest, Professor Jose Gabriel Palmer. I haven't seen this person I'm talking about. He's sitting at the back there with a beard. We greet you and we welcome you, sir. Leaders of labor, business, community, and leaders within the various structures of government, and all delegates in Nedlac, constituencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It's a real joy and a pleasure for me to be here. I thought I would not be able to make this summit because I had to go elsewhere, but Minister Oliphant insisted that I should come, so I dumped others to be with you. So I'm very happy to have dumped them to be here. I today can now record that COSATU, the non-governmental organization, since I was there, has become rather wealthy. It now has 40 or more cars. It's just unbelievable. This is the level of growth. When I was part of COSATU, I think COSATU had 5 cars. Now they have 40 cars. This is growth, and this has happened under your watch. So don't complain too much about the tickets and all that. The important thing is that President Stumo, COSATU has 40 cars and more, possibly. Nedlac is nearly as old as our democracy. It was established on the back of a very difficult but successful negotiated transition. And in many ways, Nedlac can be regarded as one of the foundation stones of our democracy. And in fact, if you were to look at Nedlac's pedigree and go into its genealogy or its genealogical history, you will find that Nedlac possibly started a lot earlier than its actual formation. During the struggle, and particularly in the 80s, as the struggle heated up, a number of constituencies in our country, from business, from labor, from various political formations and communities, got together to deal with a challenging problem of the time, and that was violence. And it was through this engagement and consensus building that we saw something new in South Africa, where various parties were able to get together to discuss matters of interest to them. And this revolved around the peace accord, and it was a very successful negotiation process and a collaboration process. And it is this that I would like to suggest formed the embryonic start of a Nedlac that we have today. And soon after democracy had dawned, we remembered the success that we had achieved in dealing with a societal problem, and felt that we needed to extend this and actually legislate it and set up an institution such as Nedlac. It was established as a platform for social dialogue marking a decisive break with the discord and the antagonism that we had in the past. In a way, Nedlac became an oasis of consensus building, where various people from completely different backgrounds were able to get together and discuss matters of importance. Nedlac must continue to be our country's most effective mechanism to facilitate consensus among social partners in finding appropriate solutions. The defining challenges identified by Nedlac at the time of its establishment were sustainable economic growth and despite the many achievements over the past 21 years, these remain our most significant tasks. It is therefore appropriate that at this summit, that we need to undertake to achieve rapid economic growth and the creation of decent jobs for our people. The rapid economic growth that we need must be the type of growth that is sustainable, equitable. It must be founded on participation, must also be founded on social network and bold and courageous leadership. Nedlac is about participation, it is about dialogue, and in the end, today we should be challenged to see whether, gathered here, we can be bold and courageous and offer the country. In many ways, this is the trust of our nation when it comes to dealing challenges to our nation. The National Development Plan sets a target of 11 million jobs by 2030 and a rise in the labor force participation rate from 54% to 65%. And if we are to achieve these targets, we need to take extraordinary measures. We need to accelerate the implementation of those programs that have shown greatest promise. Some of them are known to us. Some of the programs have been identified. We must move with greater urgency to remove the blockages to greater economic activity that we have identified. Most importantly, we need to develop new, refreshing, innovative approaches to creating work. And I'm sure that when Professor Palmer interacts with us today, he will give us a new and perhaps a fresh perspective from other parts of the world on what others are doing to tackle the challenge, but that is all pervasive around the world. From 1994 to 2015, South Africa's economy experienced average growth of about 3%. Last year, we achieved growth of 1.3%. The news this week of a growth of 3.3% in the past quarter should encourage us to deepen collaboration between all social partners in implementing an agenda for growth and development. In a way, what was announced about this 3.3% gave us a vision of the future that we desire to have. In fact, a vision of a 3.3% and more that we would like to have quarter on quarter. When the reality of the slow growth of our economy started emerging, when we realized that our economy is growing at a rather slow pace, and when we saw that, in fact, we might even have negative growth, the government decided to come up with a plan. Governments all over the world, intelligent governments that is, often come up with plans to deal with economic slumps. Sometimes they pump money into the economy. Sometimes they embark on huge public employment programs. Some stimulate the economy in a variety of ways. We decided that we would come up with the 9-point plan. A 9-point plan that is known to all of us, which covers key priority areas which, if addressed, can begin to turn our economy around. A good example of that is the energy sector. A year ago, our country was going through serious energy challenges. We were able to turn that around, and right now, the wheels of our factories are turning, our mines are operating because they have a good and consistent energy source. And things like load shedding are things of the past. The 9-point plan is aligned with our National Development Plan. The plan is aimed at addressing the challenges of unemployment in our country in the main, so as to enable us as a country to begin to create jobs as quickly as possible in the shortest possible time for the majority of our people. Work in this regard is underway. We have seen progress in the revitalization of agriculture and the agro-processing value chain, and in also advancing beneficiation. The National Development Plan projects that we should be able to create up to 1 million jobs by 2030 in agriculture alone. What many more jobs on an ongoing basis year on year in agriculture, and we think that what the National Development Plan envisaged was not a pipe dream. It like Invest South Africa, we have recently managed to attract significant investment into our manufacturing sector. Recently, all of us will have seen how the Beijing Auto Works International Company has decided to invest up to 11 billion rand into South Africa, which will create 9,000 jobs during the construction phase of their plant, and thereafter 4,000 jobs. Environment, we continue our massive investment in economic and social infrastructure. Earlier, the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission was mentioned, and this is a South African innovation which nearly everything regarding infrastructure into one center, where we are able to have line of sight of every dam that is being constructed in our country, line of sight of every road that is being constructed, line of sight of every social infrastructure and capital infrastructure project that our country is embarking upon. I was heartened to hear Mr. Jabu Mabuza from business applauding government in this regard, because the infrastructure built up in our country is one of the greatest success stories our country has seen for many, many years. We're implementing new initiatives to support small business and expanding our public employment programs. The establishment of the Small Business and Cooperatives Ministry, led by Minister Zulu, was actually a great idea, because businesses in the townships, businesses in the rural areas, we're establishing incubation centers right across the country, and this we are doing because we are now focusing. We expect announcements soon on planned interventions in key sectors of the economy, the stabilization and reform of state-owned enterprises. Will also be focused on youth employment programs and private sector co-investment in infrastructure as well. The work that is now being done in state-owned enterprises, much as it may appear that things are rickety and the wheels are coming off, the work is being done on a consistent basis, and when the announcements are made, people will be amazed and surprised regarding the good work that is being done. Significant progress has also been made within Nedlac on the measures to promote labor market stability and to reduce income inequality, specifically through the introduction of a national minimum wage. All social partners are committed to ensuring that this important work is concluded without further delay. As was earlier reported by the Executive Director, we appointed the advisory panel, and that panel is now busy at work, and I'm sure that they will meet their deadline so that the Committee of Principals is able to finally negotiate the full package on labor stability as well as the minimum wage, so that we can begin to address the issue of wage inequality in our country. We commend the leadership Labour has provided, helping to save jobs in a number of ways. We believe that our success in stabilizing the economy and increasing production has been helped by the call from some in Labour that in the course of wage negotiations, we should seek a balance between pay rises and job security. They are correct in their assessment that excessive wage demands can have a negative impact on employment. And it is good that leaders stay and preserve jobs even during periods of economic must try to remember that in a period of economic slump and unemployment, it is not the greatest idea to be moving in that direction. We need a serious conversation about change. We are tasked with convening a job summit by the end of the year. We still need to talk to all social partners about the efficacy of the job summit, and thereafter we should be bold enough to move towards having a job summit. The success of the summit here lies in the ability of Nedlac constituencies to open up new ground in the discussion about the labor market and jobs. If that summit is to be successful, we should more about issues that are a constraint when it comes to the labor market. Parties will be coming from different angles. But hey, who are we? We are Nedlac. Nedlac is about finding consensus. Nedlac is about finding agreement, and we have survived over the 21 years, year on year, dealing with very difficult issues, but always finding each other. Remember that we are Nedlac. We are Nedlac constituencies. And our DNA is about reaching agreement and consensus. We should be able to come out with agreements at that labor summit, a job summit rather, and that would be a great benefit to the majority of people in our country.